So this is another room full of memorable moments.
This is Michael Jackson's private bedroom, and when I say private, I mean ultra.
Michael Jackson's story began in a tiny two-bedroom house on Jackson Street. Decades later, it would end inside a sprawling three-story mansion in Holmby Hills. But between those two homes lies a remarkable journey, one filled with fame, fortune, reinvention, and some of the most iconic properties ever owned by a celebrity.
That's the actual sign from Neverland?
That is the actual sign from Neverland.
Some were gifted and some were simply rented.
The home that Michael Jackson rented, he didn't own it. He was paying a staggering $100,000 a month to live in this exclusive Holmby Hills.
But to understand Michael Jackson's rise, you have to start at the very beginning. At 2300 Jackson Street in Gary, Indiana stood a modest two-bedroom house spanning just 672 square feet. There was nothing remarkable about it from the outside. It sat quietly in a working-class neighborhood, looking like every other house on the block. Yet behind those walls, history was being made. 11 family members lived inside that tiny home, 9 children and 2 parents sharing a space most families would struggle to fit into. Long before the fame, the sold-out arenas, and the worldwide success, this was where the Jackson family's dream began. The house doubled as a home and a rehearsal space. In its crowded rooms, Michael and his brothers spent countless hours singing, practicing, and perfecting the performances that would eventually captivate the world. Michael lived here until he was 11 years old, but the impact of this small house would last forever. It was the starting point of one of the most extraordinary careers in entertainment history. Today, fans from around the world still visit Jackson Street. Not because of the house itself, but because it stands as proof that even the biggest legends can come from the humblest beginnings. Sometimes, greatness begins in the smallest places. That tiny 672 square foot house remains the strongest reminder of where the Jackson dynasty started. But in 1969, everything changed. After signing with Motown Records, the Jackson family left Indiana behind and headed to Los Angeles. Before finding a permanent home, they moved between hotels while Michael spent time under the guidance of Diana Ross. The family's journey to superstardom had officially begun. After months of living between hotels, the Jacksons settled into their first California home, a rented property on Queens Road in West Hollywood. For a family that had spent years squeezed into a tiny house in Gary, the change was dramatic. Hollywood, opportunity, and a completely different future now stood right outside their door. But Queens Road was only a temporary stop. In 1971, the family purchased the Havenhurst estate in Encino, California. For the first time, the Jacksons had space, privacy, and a home that reflected their growing success. Michael spent his teenage years here, and as his fame exploded, Havenhurst became the center of it all. The ideas, rehearsals, and creativity that helped shape both Off the Wall and Thriller flowed through these rooms. By the early 1980s, Michael had become the biggest star on the planet. After buying the estate from his father, he transformed Havenhurst into something far grander, adding luxury features, private spaces, and even a recording studio where early work on Thriller began to take shape. The boy who once shared a crowded bedroom was now building a world of his own. Michael's renovation transformed Havenhurst completely. The estate now featured private bedrooms, a movie theater, a gym, a trophy room, and most importantly, a recording studio where early demos for Thriller were recorded. Havenhurst was no longer just the Jackson family home. It had become Michael's private sanctuary, a reflection of the superstar he was becoming. But even that wasn't enough. In March 1988, Michael made the biggest real estate move of his life, purchasing Sycamore Valley Ranch in Santa Barbara County. Spanning more than 2,700 acres, the property would soon be known around the world by a different name, Neverland Ranch. Inspired by Peter Pan's fictional world where children never grow up, Neverland wasn't just a home. It was Michael Jackson's attempt to create the childhood he felt he had lost.
Egg hunt day. Yeah. And we're going, how many eggs are there? 1. How many?
Neverland represented something Michael had never truly experienced before, complete freedom. At 30 years old, he was finally stepping away from the family home and creating a world entirely his own. And what he built was unlike anything seen before. Neverland featured its own amusement park, roller coasters, a carousel, bumper cars, a private train, and even a zoo filled with exotic animals. More than a mansion, it was an entire fantasy world brought to life. But Michael didn't keep it to himself. He regularly opened the gates to sick and underprivileged children, inviting thousands to experience the magic of Neverland firsthand. For Michael, Neverland was about more than luxury. It was his way of recreating the childhood he never had. Having performed since the age of 5, he missed many of the experiences most children take for granted. Through Neverland, he tried to share that joy with thousands of children who visited its gates. Maintaining the estate reportedly cost millions every year, but Michael never seemed to care. At the center of Neverland stood a 13,000 square foot French Normandy-style mansion. While the outside was filled with rides and attractions, the house itself was surprisingly elegant and private. Inside were fine artwork, antique furnishings, and even a hidden room concealed behind a bookshelf. For more than 15 years, this was Michael's sanctuary, the place where he lived, created, and escaped from the pressures of fame. But in 2005, everything changed. After a highly publicized trial, Michael was found not guilty on all charges. Legally, he had won. Personally, however, the damage was done. During the investigation, authorities had searched Neverland, turning the place he loved most into something he no longer recognized.
How you doing? Sheriff Department, do you have a search warrant?
For Michael, Neverland was never the same after the investigation. Although he was acquitted, the place he once considered a sanctuary now carried painful memories. Soon after, he made a decision that shocked fans around the world. He would never live at Neverland again. The estate remained behind, but Michael moved on. In late 2005, he relocated to Bahrain as a guest of the royal family. Far from the headlines and constant media attention, he finally found something he had been missing for years: privacy. There, he spent time with his children, rested, and focused on music away from the spotlight. But Bahrain was only a temporary escape. In 2006, Michael moved his family to Ireland, settling near recording studios in the quiet countryside. For perhaps the first time in decades, he was able to enjoy a relatively normal life. He recorded music, spent time outdoors, and gave his children a break from the intense public attention that had followed them for years. By the end of 2006, Michael was ready to return to America. He chose Las Vegas, renting a massive estate on Monte Cristo Way. Behind its high walls, he began planning the next phase of his career, including a potential concert comeback that could put him back on top once again. Despite the luxury, Las Vegas never fully gave Michael the peace he was searching for. But it did offer something else, a chance to rebuild and plan his comeback. In 2007, he moved into a sprawling Las Vegas estate later known as the Thriller Villa. The 24,000 square foot property was designed for privacy, featuring high security, a private theater, a chapel, and space for Michael's extensive art collection. For nearly 2 years, he lived there with his children, away from much of the public attention. Hidden behind its gates, the estate became another temporary sanctuary as Michael prepared for the next chapter of his life.
Keep the camera here. This was the Thriller Villa.
Thriller Villa would become Michael's final home in Las Vegas before his return to California. In December 2008, he moved into a rented mansion at 100 North Carrollwood Drive in Holmby Hills, one of Los Angeles' most exclusive neighborhoods. The 7-bedroom estate was designed by renowned architect Richard Landry and would soon become the center of Michael's biggest comeback attempt. With the announcement of the This Is It concert series, the pressure was enormous. And from behind the gates of Carrollwood Drive, Michael began preparing for what he hoped would be one final return to the world stage.
This is it.
With 50 sold-out shows scheduled at London's O2 Arena, Michael was preparing for one of the biggest comebacks in music history. Carrollwood Drive became his headquarters. Rehearsals consumed his days as he worked relentlessly to get ready for This Is It. The mansion was filled with his books, movies, and his children's artwork, small reminders of home during an intense period of preparation. The estate itself was massive, but Michael's focus remained on two things: the comeback and his children. While he pushed himself professionally, Prince, Paris, and Blanket were given a private space where they could live away from the constant public attention. At the time, few could have known that this mansion would become the final home of the King of Pop.
This is the view of Michael Jackson's house in Holmby Hills, California.
Despite its luxury, Carrollwood never truly felt like a permanent home. But inside those walls, something far more important was happening. Away from the cameras and headlines, Michael was simply a father. One of the most touching details left behind was a message written by one of his children on a kitchen chalkboard. "I love Daddy." Michael never erased it. It's a small detail, but it reveals a side of him the world rarely saw. Behind the fame, the records, and the global superstardom was a man who treasured quiet moments with his children. And perhaps that's what makes the story of Michael Jackson's homes so fascinating. From a tiny house in Gary, Indiana, to the gates of Neverland and the halls of Carolwood Drive, each home captured a different chapter of an extraordinary life. The music may have stopped, but the story remains. Which of Michael Jackson's homes surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more untold stories.